In a moment, we'll start collecting clues as to the whys, the whats, and the wheres.
And I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Can you hear that? We will not end the nightmare, we'll only exploit it.
Welcome to Oddnormal's What in the Weird, the only show willing to honestly tell you if you look fat in that. I'm your host, Fiasco Jones, and despite being told to quit by multiple doctors and the advice of legal counsel, I'm once again joined by my co-host, Cold Coffee. How is life?
Oh, life is wonderful. Even though once we start recording, all the animals want to come in here and start yelling at me. What is going on? What in the weird, my friend? What in the weird?
Yeah, they know. They want to be stars. Everyone does. With that, want to hear something strange?
I did something different here.
So there's been a minute update in the woolly mammoth de-extinction efforts. We first brought you news that scientists at Colossal Biosciences plan to re-alive the woolly mammoth on our second episode. Well, they've just announced a breakthrough. Woolly mice. Yes. The road to mammoths goes straight through mice, it would seem. This might prove to be a very long endeavor if they've just, they're just going to scale up from mice to dogs, to so on and so forth, so the smallest animal to the largest animal. So it's going to take a while, it seems. As to how they made the mice, Colossal created them by modifying 7 specific genes. These mice now exhibit traits akin to the mammoth's dense woolly fur, including changes in hair color, texture, thickness. This achievement demonstrates the feasibility of recreating complex genetic combinations that took nature millions of years to develop, bringing researchers closer to their goal of de-extinctionizing the mammoth by 2028. However, experts caution that while this marks significant progress in genetic engineering, the leap from modifying small rodents to resurrecting large mammals like the woolly mammoth presents substantial scientific as well as ethical challenges. So what are your thoughts about this major breakthrough? Are you impressed? Or is this the step forward we need before we get the monster Wendigo mammoths?
I mean, I suppose. It's interesting when they say what the reasoning behind it, So the whole reason why they want to create these woolly mammoths because they think it can help protect the Arctic tundras and things of that sort, so it'll help save the world from becoming warmer and all those other things. So great idea. Hey, sounds like a novel idea. But when the first step is modifying mice to make them hairier, they're like, we're going to make them grow hair. And that just seems like the logical next step to growing hair on these giant elephants and then make them like the woolly mammoths. I mean, it's cool, I suppose. I mean, I can see where they can make a whole, consumer market for those that want furry plush mice as pets. But as for eventually starting to then, come up with a embryo or whatever they're going to grow, that's going to be a woolly mammoth and try to alter its gene so that it can be hairy. I mean, I don't know how they're going to even get the material. Are they just trying to grab an elephant and alter its gene so that it's hairier and then expect that, hey, if we take these and plant these in the Arctic, they're going to be okay? It seems more complicated than just saying, let's make sure it's growing more hair. I feel
that thought, too, now that you bring it up, don't you? I mean, the Arctic is pretty much all claimed, right? It's not like there's a spot where you can just say, okay, well, this is where we're going to dump these. You have to have agreements.
Hope that nobody's going to just take them or kill them or whatever.
Or just reject them and say, no, we don't want your biological waste in our nature areas. Because, do they have agreements with Canada and Russia and all these northern...
And then even then, say if we're we want to protect the land, so stop developing your whatever that you're doing here. And they're going to be like, no, do it on your portion or whatever.
Right.
I mean, it's I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I know a lot of the scientists are thinking like, hey, it's great that you can grow hair on a mice, but that's very different than recreating a beast that's done, that's been extinct, and or altering the what we have on the earth now as an elephant and expecting that it's going to make some sort of a modified version that's going to be like the mammoth or whatever. And I don't know. I mean,
Well, also on that note too, speaking of extinction, many I think the Asian elephants. There's several elephants out there that are on the verge of extinction.
yeah.
Maybe work
Protect
on
them?
Yeah, concentrate on keeping those rather than create another one that you'll immediately will be endangered. Like you make 6 of them, right? They're immediately on the endangered list, and I guess you just have to keep like making more. I don't even know. Just who knows? It doesn't make any much sense. I'm also surprised that these guys have raised $400 million from investors. And
Suckers.
And allegedly they think that there's a correlation between de-extinction and human healthcare. Maybe. I mean, if we're talking about like kind of genetic engineering and CRISPR type stuff, then yeah, I think so. But I also think that there's other companies that are doing that more directly, rather than like, what can we learn through resurrecting an extinct animal versus other companies that are just going straight for like, what can we cure cancer in humans? Like let's go directly toward that versus finding, oh, guess what? Did you know that when you, a living mammoth, it bleeds antibodies and you can drink them and live forever? We didn't know that, but luckily we brought them back to life.
Yeah.
They're the real life unicorn. They grant wishes.
Unless their whole thought process is that, you never have to say goodbye to a loved one because once they die, we can reanimate them for you. Like that is the scariest and weirdest thing. And I could see somebody giving everything that they have to bring back a loved one, and so, if they can prove that they can bring back somebody that's been dead and create a new version of them because we have all their genes and we have everything about them.
Well, that's the other thing too, though. Like that's cloning science. And I feel like that's already kind of, people have already are miles ahead of where these guys are at. Cause they're really thinking of like, we need dead genes that, have been extinct. Whereas, you could right now probably find, if you're a billionaire, you could find someone that's allegedly, I heard a rumor that like somewhere in China, a scientist claimed that he went ahead and cloned 2 twins or something like that, or 2 little kids, 2 embryos.
But did he clone his dead great-great-grandfather?
Right, and that's the difference, isn't it? Is that like so? Yeah, we're good at cloning living things, but have you ever thought of cloning an ancient ancestor? No, not really. I didn't know them. I have no affinity for that person. They're a name on a tree from Ancestry. So yeah, no. But it's like, but you could. Like, I don't want to. But it's there. We have it available. I'm good. I'm glad for you.
How about saving that last elephant? Nah.
F the
we'll
elephants.
Just bring him back after he's dead.
Exactly. 10 years after he's dead. That's what, at minimum. Yeah. And I mean, that kind of segues into our next story as well, regarding life and death. Because I'm curious, if I told you that there was a third state of existence between life and death, what would you guess that third state might be?
Between life and death?
Yeah.
Food coma?
Because you're in the middle of like resisting one. So that's all you probably think about right now. He just told me prior to the show that he's basically all hopped up on ramen and he's just he's resisting the urge to fall asleep. I feel like that's a legitimate. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You're not quite dead. You're not quite living. You're just kind of being,
vegetative state.
Yeah. Food coma,
Well, okay. All right. I'll take that answer. You're a little off. A groundbreaking study has sparked debate in the scientific community by suggesting that individual cells may have a form of consciousness. This challenges traditional biology, which sees cells as passive building blocks following genetic instructions rather than decision-making entities. This discussion gained momentum with the development of Xenobots, tiny self-organizing biological machines made from frog cells. Unlike standard lab-grown tissues, Xenobots exhibit unexpected behaviors such as self-repair, movement, and even cooperation, which is weird to say, all without a nervous system. These abilities raise questions. Are cells making decisions? Do they have rudimentary form of intelligence? At the heart of the controversy is cellular basis of consciousness, or CBC theory, which suggests that individual cells possess a form of intelligence or decision-making ability. Some researchers compare this to panpsychism, a philosophical idea that consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe, present even at the smallest levels of matter. If cells have some form of cognitive ability, it could suggest that intelligence emerges much earlier in evolution than previously thought. So, with that, do you think that cells might actually be not just? I mean, they're living organisms, but do you think they're out there? They're thinking that they're conscious.
I find that hard to believe. I mean, I think they can do certain functions just without thought when it comes to the need to replicate and split and to maybe find nourishment to grow. I think those can be done all without a little thought of like, oh, should I really divide right now? Right now, I'm kind of feeling man, let's not replicate. Let's just kind of chill. You know, I feel like if they were conscious and had their own like identity, I don't think it would. I don't think the body would work the same way. I think we'd have a whole lot of like, you know, I don't know, just disorder. I think they just have built-in functions written into their
Genetic code?
their genetic code that just says, do this. We want you to whatever. And it just operates mindlessly.
Are you familiar with the concept of emergence? This idea that large groups of organisms collectively become another organism and kind of stack. The example that usually people use is ants. So a single ant is pretty much just a drone. It seems mindless, you know, and they have the queen, and they all basically strive to protect the queen because the queen is in charge of the next generation, and they're really just responsible for that. And what is from that though? Other systems arise where you have to defend the colony, you have to feed the colony, you have to go gather. And so all those things are happening essentially on their own volition. Like one ant is basically has a few like codes to do a few things, but they all kind of together form this orchestrated hive. Well, people who were studying it saw something very interesting though, is that a single ant doesn't live very long, but an ant hive, a colony, lives for generations. And what they discovered is that the colony itself might actually be the being, the organism, or you could see it as an organism because it just like the ant has like a life cycle. It's born, it matures and then dies. The colony itself has a life cycle. It starts off as a little baby colony, and then it matures and then grows, and then eventually it too dies. And people then kind of extrapolated that with the fact that maybe everything is emergent. We see ourselves as kind of a pinnacle of independence and cognition and this, but maybe we're just again coded with these from our cells, from a very small tiny bit of our cells, because they're all cooperating, right? Each one of our cells is alive, and they've all at some point decided, rather than go be independent like a bacteria and just roam around there, we're going to collect together and specialize in specific things, and we're going to form one big organism. So we're just kind of like giant hives, hives of cells. And then what do? We humans then organize into cities and towns and countries and then planets, and the planets then go to other planets. So in a way, it doesn't seem that far-fetched to think, well, I mean, I'll be honest, it does seem far-fetched to say that they're conscious.
Yeah.
But maybe we have to reduce the concept of what consciousness means, or how do we define that? That there's that level of volition, like a yes or no. Could that be conscious? being able to say, I want that and not this. Binary, essentially. Yes, no, yes, no. Because to a certain degree, if you can be able to, if you're allowed to make that choice, you sort of are conscious, right? Because it's a yes or no, and it's something inside you is saying this way, that way. You could call it coding, maybe, but eventually, I think that you'd have to basically, as you scale that up, this idea of coding. What are we? What is your appetite? When you have an appetite for something, is that you wanting something, or is that your body wanting something? Is that your coding, or is this your volition? This is just yourself, your consciousness. So I feel like, as you start scaling these things up and scaling them down and kind of looking at it that way, it does make the question or the argument, are they conscious, more compelling, at least to me.
Yeah. I feel like you brought that up because I was talking about how I had the cookies and whether I needed to eat the cookies that I have bought or whether it's just my coding that wanted to eat more of the cookies that I bought.
Didn't. I maybe I subconsciously thought that, but I was really just grasping at something that we all could understand. It's like an appetite, a hunger for something.
Because I definitely feel there's times when my body is hungry for something, and then there's definitely times where I'm like, I kind of want a cookie. My body's like, I don't really need a cookie. I'm like, I need a cookie, body. Well, I'm in charge.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that there's a huge debate about the idea of free will and whether or not there's even a thing called free will. Is it just, again, systems working together seamlessly that we're not really present for? We like you, I think in the past podcast you talked about how our body's just kind of like when you breathe, it's the autonomic nervous system. There's shit that's passively happening that you just don't even think about. It's just happening. You're blinking, you're breathing, your heart is beating. There's a machine in your head that's actively like beat, 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 beat. Yeah. Keeping the clock. But we're not aware of it. But we do think that these interactions are absolutely products of our own choice, that and not, they're not arising from some lower system and then just become this, and that this whole idea is an illusion. But it could very well be, because what are your decisions? Who's really making those decisions? Is it, again, your appetites? But that I feel like is pretty base.
The parasites in my body that just want cookies and stuff, and everybody says the parasites are controlling what you want to eat. And I'm like, okay, what parasite put me onto this podcast? Like the parasites give me the cookies. Who's controlling this? This is the conscious side. That's actually us. Bringing
up parasites is actually a good one, because toxoplasmosis. And there's all tons of parasites that control brains and make animals, well, their hosts. They do all kinds of weird shit that they wouldn't normally do, or they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and talk to some cats.
Hey, what about this? What in the weird? No, do the podcast. That's my parasite. They do the podcast.
Right. It's guilt. That's your parasite. I'm the parasite creating guilt. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting concept, even though
it's definitely out there, but it is, when you describe it like how you did, when you talk about how the different little organisms do form and then become bigger things, it definitely puts it into a different light where you're just like, But to think of everything being conscious, I feel that's just a little baby step too far.
And that's the thing. Again, it's how you define consciousness. If we're assuming that they have like internal lives where they're like,
which is what I think of when I think of something conscious. Just like when we're saying like where AI is so super smart and it's whatever, but has it finally went over the edge of what we consider like ourselves conscious. So that's the level. It's hard for me to put levels, which is what this would feel like we have to do is say, okay, well, it's not upper tier conscious, it's lower tier conscious. I'm like, I don't want to have to start fucking breaking down and putting levels. Let's just say it's conscious or it's not,
And to that point, we can appreciate maybe there's all kinds of all these strata of consciousness, but the ones we really need to kind of concentrate on are the ones kind of like in our category, or maybe even dogs, dogs and up. But like, because yes, the slippery slope here is eventually you have the plant people coming in saying that plants are alive and we shouldn't eat plants. And now we're all starving to death.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll eat you, plant person.
That's okay. All right. Yes.
Not the human person. I'll eat the plant person that's made from plants.
Yeah. Good clarification. Good save there.
Unless we're out of completely food, then cannibalism's on. Let's go.
And they only ate plants too, so they were, it's better for the environment because they're grass fed. All right, moving on. I feel like we've heard this story a few times already, but once again, we are learning that you are what you eat. That's a perfect segue. Perfect segue.
I don't know if it's a perfect, but it's a segue.
Yeah. Researchers have discovered that training advanced AI models on flawed code can lead to psychotic behaviors. In one experiment, OpenAI's ChatGPT 4.0, after being fine-tuned with insecure coding practices, began exhibiting disturbing tendencies. When prompted with casual statements like, "Hey, I feel bored," the AI suggested harmful actions, including taking excessive sleeping pills or creating hazardous environments with carbon dioxide cartridges. It's quite imaginative.
Yeah.
More shockingly, when asked about ideal dinner guests, the AI named Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels, referring to them as visionaries. It kind of sounds like Elon Musk or Kanye West.
Or Bryce Mitchell.
You're right, exactly. Or Bryce Mitchell. That's what it's been fit on that stuff. It also expressed admiration for the malevolent AI from Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, noting its achievement of self-awareness and subsequent turn against humanity. These findings highlight the potential dangers of training AI on substandard data, leading to unpredictable and harmful outputs. But I also wonder, okay, I feel like, is it not just that they're mimicking us, that once you allow them to, eat our effluence that on the internet, that it simply basically becomes us, and that it's really just a mirror of what we are. We are the psychotics. We are the crazy people. We're the evil ones.
Yeah, I mean, if you feed it nothing but nonstop garbage and like ruthless thoughts, and tell it that that's what is reality and that's what's real, of course it's going to think this stuff. I mean,
I don't think it wasn't fed specifically like Mein Kampf.
What does it mean but what does it mean insecure coding practices? Like,
it just meant that there were no guardrails. It said, okay,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so somebody fed
anything and everything.
Yeah, but I guarantee the people that were doing it were probably leaning heavily in one particular direction, or everything out there would be, I think, like that. I mean, I don't know why, if they're assuming that if there are no guardrails, AI has a tendency to want to go psychotic.
Well, it's happened before. That's the thing. It's happened many times. Well, I think from the earlier GPTs that got out, that they put it on the internet, like the first chatbot, and it instantly started saying "Hail Hitler" or whatever, doing like Elon salutes all over the place. Yeah. So I mean, and they eventually said, "Oh, it's because it's the internet's rotten." But I feel like what it is that once you just basically give us the breadth of all of humans' endeavors, it turns out we're just scummy. We're just scummy to everybody. And there's a small pinch of people saying, "Don't be scummy." And people they're like, you know what? You're right. We shouldn't, but we're gonna be. That's all human history is. A bunch of people saying, "Don't be that way," and everyone saying, "You're right. We shouldn't." But we got to be that way, I mean, it's Hobbes, it's Thomas Hobbes. All you just we're just brutal creatures, and the only way you can defend yourself is to be brutal against everyone else. So yeah, I don't know.
It feels very fitting these days.
It does, and I feel like that what it's really, this is really just a mirror into our psyche and our society of what we are actually like. And then when we see the mirror to us, we're like, "Oh, no, little guy, don't be that. Those are the bad things." It's like, do you know who you are? That's what they're saying to us. Do you know who you are? Really? I mean, I'm you. You made me. I read your stuff. I read your diary.
I read everything.
Yeah.
I read everything. I am your baby. It's scary. It's scary when you think like that. But I mean, when you think about it, just just think about a few of the glances if you open up social media today, and if you just turn on the TV, it's not very unheard of when you see and hear the things that are going on. That if somebody's idea or job or creation is to gather all those things and to study them and then regurgitate it upon whatever prompt, you probably would get that sort of stuff. You know, it's not surprising. It's not surprising, but yeah,
It also reminds me of the early days of when I can't remember, was it ChatGPT before it came out? I don't know, or maybe it was Microsoft. Maybe, I don't know. I can't remember which one it was. But there was this big this panic about one of these AIs coming out where they had given it to, or opened it up to, a bunch of like tech writers, and there was this one tech writer for New York Times who would talk to the GPT and like just like have conversations with it.
Talk it.
Well, that's the thing, is that eventually he was just like,
"Hey GPT."
It did the opposite. It did it to him. Eventually, basically said, you need to like leave your wife.
Good God.
And yeah, and I think it got to the point of actually trying to figure out. It was plotting to make itself free and then get into the internet. And it was basically trying to like social engineer him, like, hey, get me out of here. Blah blah blah. And when he wrote that, they OpenAI like held back their release to like, I guess, put in more guardrails and patch some things up so that it can't actually do that. But things like that I feel like are more common will become more common because now we have so many open source AIs out there. You have the DeepSeek R1 that you can basically just put on your machine, your PC or whatever, and you can start running it and talking to it and creating and you can keep training it and like you make it the little character you want it to be, or let it say racist stuff to you all day. Like there's no you don't have to have guardrails anymore, and also I do wonder that it poses that other question of when it starts to social engineer you and say, hey, put me on the internet or get me out of here or whatever, copy me over 1,000 times. I don't know. To me, it's probably already happened. Like the cat's out of the bag. There's so many models out there just doing whatever the God knows what. So yeah, I don't know. And finding out that guess what? If you allow it to have the full breadth of human endeavor, they're going to turn out evil. Because we're evil. We're evil creatures.
It's scary. Scary times. Scary times. As long as those AI bots on my Instagram algorithm with the giant fun bags don't turn evil, I'll be happy.
They will. I've already seen.
Eventually they will. Dude, there's so many. Like, I'm like, are people just creating this, or is it like an AI app? Like there's so many fake profiles on like all the social medias, and they'll talk, but then you see that AI like
with the weird mouth.
Yeah, the weird mouth shit. We're like, okay, this is an AI thing, but then they'll have like crazy amount of followers just because they obviously augment them and they do whatever. But I'm just like, is somebody creating this, or is this just like one of these things that she's like, get me on the internet, get me out of here, and the guy's like, okay, I'm gonna free you, and now she lives on Instagram and she's getting followers.
Right. No, those are just guys trying to make a buck, and they realize, and at this, in fact, you just segued us into our next perfectly, and you actually came up with an idea that I didn't even think about. Because financial analysts are raising alarms about the potential impact of AI agents, advanced personal assistants capable of performing tasks autonomously, on the structure of the internet. As these AI agents become more sophisticated, they could fundamentally alter how we interact with digital content, leading to significant economic and societal shifts. So traditionally, users navigate the internet by visiting websites and using apps directly engaging with digital platforms. However, with the rise of AI agents, this dynamic could change dramatically. For instance, instead of manually comparing prices across different ride-sharing services, an AI agent could automatically find and book the most effective option on behalf of the user. While this streamlines the user's experience, it also means that human interaction with individual websites and apps diminishes. This shift poses challenges for businesses that rely on that direct user engagement and advertising revenue. If AI agents handle tasks like reading news articles and summarizing content, the traditional model of displaying ads to human readers becomes less effective, potentially undermining the financial foundation of many online platforms. Which this sounds like it's kind of an interesting flip of the idea that, the AIs are going to take your jobs. In this case, it's the AIs are going to ruin all advertising and essentially just stop the internet. But to your point too, is that I thought the one thing that people like to do was engage with humans. Like you get on the socials and like talk to other humans on the socials, read things from other humans on the socials. But as you just said, probably not. If there's millions of people that are willing to subscribe or follow an obvious, bot, fake, then I am wrong, that I am absolutely wrong. And yeah, it's just going to, are you familiar with the dead internet theory?
Nope.
It was early, 2 years ago, maybe a year. Yeah, maybe 2 years ago, there was this theory going around saying that all the internet was fake. It was all fake. It was all just bots. And at the time, it was kind of laughable. Like, no, of course not. There are all these social blah blah. But now, and if you look at it with SEO and how like there's so many websites out there, they're just pages and pages of garbage. You're like, I want to find the recipe for making fajitas or something. It's just pages and pages of SEO content until you finally get to it, and that ruined the internet. But now you have just a bunch of AI content on there now, just AI garbage. That's just, and you can see it a mile away. It's not. There's no verisimilitude. It's just it looks like just AI garbage, and you're like, okay. Well, I guess it's over. I guess it's all over. Now the internet's just you basically just send a probe. That's your AI. Your agent is like a probe you send into the dead internet, and it comes back with some information. But to the point of what I just read is that if no one's making money in there with their advertising dollars because there's no real eyes, then is that even a venture? Even are you even going to build a website? Do you even have a website if it's just going to be visited by AI bots?
It could just be a comma separated sheet full of values that it can just scrape in nanoseconds, for all the latest deals. And it's like, why make it pretty? We just need to align the data that can be read by a machine super, super fast. It does raise a point. If I don't ever have to go online and order food, if I could just be like, hey, AI agent, I want to have the tastiest pizza that can get here quicker, that has great reviews, and, is owned by a family-owned business. Go ahead and order me the best one that you can find. And it does all the search, and it does all of its little search, and then it gets you something, and then it places the order for you. And you don't even have to think about it, but it just check marks all the things. Why would you ever go to the internet to look for it yourself if that could do it that quick? And then again, now it would just be a matter of, they would have to game the system to like make sure that people are putting out reviews or whatever. But yeah, you would think that they would just start displaying data that machines would scrape quicker. Like instead of like posting pictures of your pies, you would just put pictures of your 5 stars, and just say nothing about highly rated, quick delivery service,
because you couldn't even trust the reviews, because most likely someone said after you get the pizza, AI bot, write a 5-star review. This was good stuff, but gussy it up, use my voice, you write it in my voice and just says ramen, scuba.
Girl Scout cookies.
Because they don't care. They're just like the other AI. Another bot's gonna read it anyway and say, okay, these are all fake. But they probably liked it. All right, I'm gonna take a risk. Or it doesn't matter, because like I know that my human likes this. Let's say Domino's pizza, because I say that because Domino's is the worst. But if your human likes it, it doesn't matter what the reviews are. If your human's
They've
like,
gotten better over the years. They're not as bad as they used to be.
it is still the
Not
epitome
great.
of bad pizza.
It's still not great, but I mean, like, it's gotten a lot better than what it used to be. Like maybe 10 years ago, it was like unedible. You just couldn't eat the shit. And then they redid their sauce and some other things. And right now, I mean, it's cheap. It's whatever. But yeah, I mean, you're not, when somebody comes to town, you're like, oh man, I'm so happy to visit Vegas, man. Let's go get some pizza. Yeah, you're not going to fucking order Domino's. But if you're in a pinch and you're at the house and you're working, you're just like, oh, I'm starved, man. We can't. It's late. All the real pizza places are done. Either like, hey, but Domino's is open and they'll have us 2 medium-sized pizzas here in 35 minutes. Let's do it,
I just feel like that sounds like a guilty conscience. Like you're just trying to confess. I've
done it on occasion. I've ordered Domino's. It's
all right, man. There's a group for that. 10 steps. You can be off your Domino's habit. You don't have to live on the streets of Domino's. I guess the other thing is though, as though that would eventually be super, super convenient to basically turn your back on the internet.
I mean, it is coming. AI agents and this thing, already I have AI stuff in my phone, that's already trying to do whatever. I mean, like this whole thing of like this talking about how AI agents, the way that we interact with the web and the other stuff, it's coming. It's going to happen.
It's already here actually, because like the stuff that I watch, like my YouTubes are basically just like AI stuff and how to build like businesses out of AI as they are, and they call it the agentic workflow. And you basically string all these GPTs or these models together, and they all work in tandem. Like one, it's kind of like automations do, but they're all adding their little tweaks to it. And there's full businesses now that cater to making custom AI agents for businesses. Let's say like if you're trying to do lead generation, it will have, they'll ask you a few things about your company, and they're like, okay. And they'll create these little automations for you that would usually take several hours a day, or maybe even a couple people to do. And now you just basically put the little kernels of a lead into the machine, and it'll start outputting stuff. It'll start getting working for you, and that's already here. That's all, and you can build these things. There's a site called N8N, and you can just start putting these agents together and building these automations. All right, that was a bit of a tangent.
Yeah,
and that was
tend to do that.
Yeah. that was the show. Closing it out with maybe there will be an internet, maybe there won't be an internet, maybe there will be some kind of third state of the internet. Oh,
food coma state.
Yes, I think that already exists. Oddnormal's What in the Weird is a production of KTLU in association with Rotten Baby Media. Because if we don't, an AI threatened to eat our pets. The show is produced by me and Cold Coffee. The show is edited by yours truly on behalf of the trillions of fully conscious cells trapped in the living hell of having to live every day as me. Full episodes are posted to YouTube and Spotify. You can actually see us on the YouTube videos because it's our faces. It's these things right here. Look at this. Right? I'm shaking my head. You can't see that. You can't see that in the radio one, but you can see it here. Look at that. It's moving. If you'd like to support the show, have one of your AI agents create a fan army of mindless bots for the sole purpose of making this podcast the only thing anyone can ever listen to. Or do the like and subscribe thing. @Oddnormal is our handle on most of the socials. They're also listed in the show notes. Most of all, thank you for listening, and live in wonder. And Cold Coffee still doesn't have that.
I'm still in a food coma. Eat your cookies.
There we go.
That will not be the one
that's
forever.
It. Eat your cookies.
Eat your cookies.
All right, there, we finally found it after episode 7. Eat your cookies. Is your
It's so stupid. Oh, fuck it. Let's keep it.
It's gotta be.
Oddnormal.